One of the biggest problems people have, no matter what their health goal is, if they're trying to lose weight or gain muscle, is not understanding their diet. In this video, I'm going to cover macromolecules because those are 3 things that you will not be able to succeed without understanding. You may have heard carbohydrates, fats, and proteins before, but not fully understood how your food breaks down into those nutrients that your body needs daily and how those specific big nutrients help you with your goals. To get started, explaining food, it would not be complete without food. Now, this is a chili that I made that is a very weird chili, but it is incredibly delicious because it has no tomatoes, because I have a tomato allergy. You don't need to know any of that information for macromolecules, but I figured I'd tell you. In this chili is a wonderful breakdown of ingredients that have macronutrients as their main focus. In the chili are black beans, corn, chicken broth, ground chicken, because I don't like red meat, and last but definitely not least, what makes chili a sweet potato. No one puts sweet potatoes in a chili. I do. Each one of those ingredients have a main macronutrient that makes them up. The corn and the sweet potato are mostly a form of carbohydrate. The bone broth, or the chicken bone broth, and the ground chicken are mostly forms of protein. I will say that the chicken also has some good fats in it. And last, the black beans are actually mostly carbohydrates, but they are a decent source of protein as well. Now, returning back to the chili, I did a rough breakdown of the macronutrients, aka the carbohydrates, the fats, and the proteins present in this chili, and it's roughly an equal breakdown with a slightly higher emphasis on the carbohydrates. Why does it matter that there's different percentages of the macronutrients in your food? Well, because if you don't eat enough of one and too much of another, you're putting yourself in an imbalance, because each one of these 3, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, have beneficial effects for you. And likewise, too much of each one of these 3 chronically can lead to some consequences. Using these guys as an example, the carbohydrates are a good thing. In the wild, they exist, such as the sweet potato. It's packed with nutrients, packed with vitamins, and it can sustain us. Same thing with the corn. While it's been modified in many ways, the corn has saved many lives and helped us survive as a species. Carbohydrates, in essence, are an energy source for us. So when we go about our daily life and we're trying to perform functional actions, that includes thinking and using our brain. Those are very functional actions. It requires carbohydrates. Roughly 20 to 80% of the carbohydrates we ingest go directly to our brain's function. Now, that doesn't mean that for the people out there that are on the keto diet or they emphasize low carb, high fat diets, I am not saying which one I support, because that's not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is to explain thus far the research of what the benefits are for each macronutrient. So then how could this carbohydrate that is so good for your brain and important to have your body's energy needs met, how could it be a villain? Because we have too much of it sometimes. The sweet potato and the no salt added organic corn are both healthy forms of carbohydrates. But many of us have Twinkies and Ho-Hos and potato chips and other processed foods that are highly salted, also have the simple sugars as part of them as well. Those aren't good carbohydrates. Simple carbohydrates might be okay if you're an endurance athlete and you need a little pick-me-up or a little recovery snack, but in general, we eat way too many refined carbohydrates, and they lead to increased fat gains in our body. Which, of course, our body does need a healthy degree of fat, but too much fat in our bodies can lead to chronic conditions for our health. So now that we've covered the benefits of carbohydrates and the villainous capabilities of carbohydrates, let's move on to fat. Now, the ground chicken and then the black beans have very minimal unsaturated fats, and the chicken has minimal saturated fat. Where would the fat be then? Many people add sour cream, or maybe they add coconut milk if they're dairy-free, and then you're starting to add some fats to your chili or to your meal. There's other ways that you can get fats. One of the healthiest forms of fats is actually from fish, which is omega-3, and so that's just one form of fat that's great for your brain and even recommended for pregnant women as well. So it definitely is really good to keep your body nice and healthy. But what is fat's real superpower, really? Fat is important for your hormone health. It's important for your endocrine system, which is your hormone system, to synthesize the hormones that your body needs. So if you don't have enough fat, in other words, you have too low of body fat percentage, you could have some issues with your hormone balance. Fat is like carbohydrate in that it is a form of energy that can be used by the body. It takes a little bit longer for our bodies to break it down. It needs low intensity, long endurance to burn the fat. Now that doesn't mean that just walking slow pace is the best thing to burn fat. It's just one of the ways that our body utilizes fat. Fat has more energy in it than carbohydrate and protein combined. So fat is an amazing energy source, and that's a true superpower. What about being a villain? Our body stores a lot of it for us because we might need it if there's a flood, or if there's a drought, or if there's some type of starvation that hits. And so it tries to store the fat for our bodies, leading to some underlying health conditions along the way. But it's not fat that makes us fat. Keep that in mind. If we eat fat, we're not becoming fat by eating fat. It's the simple sugars that cause us to become fat. Two very different things. They get commonly misconstrued because people eating fat sometimes think that that's going to make them fat. But no, studies have shown that some diets linked with high saturated fat intake can be correlated with more heart disease. So keep that in mind as well. To lower your saturated fat intake, make sure you actually have a balance between unsaturated fats or healthy unsaturated fats and healthy saturated fats. Just a few examples. Some healthy saturated fats with omega-3s are like salmon and other types of fish. They're very high in omega-3, grass-fed chickens, grass-fed eggs, even I would say grass-fed beef as well, but make sure it's grass-finished. And of course, some healthy unsaturated fat options, which are really good for helping your heart health, include olive oil, avocado oil, and one last healthy saturated fat is coconut oil. So that's another one that you can consider as well that does seem to have some anti-inflammatory properties. And one last ingredient that is really critical for this chili is if you are enjoying this video, please hit the like button because it really helps me as a creator. Thank you so much. That's gonna be tasty. All right, let's come back to protein and cover how protein helps you and any possible negative effects that protein may have. So the ground chicken and the beans have protein in them. The ground chicken is mostly protein and absolutely no carbohydrates. Animal-based proteins are almost never carbohydrate. And so this is pure ground chicken, so it's only protein and fat. The beans, however, protein and carbohydrates. Why is protein important for the body? Does it give us energy like carbohydrates and fat? No, protein should be seen as the building blocks of our body. Every day, whether we work out or not, we have a balance between muscle damage and muscle growth. Now, how do we grow our muscle? Well, obviously we need proper hormone levels, so that's where some healthy fats come into play, but we also need protein. We need protein as the building blocks to help repair the protein that was lost naturally throughout our daily life, just existing, even if we're working out or not. Now, there is a condition called sarcopenia that even right now, your muscles could be at risk for. Now, sarcopenia is natural age-related muscle degeneration, but it does not mean that you shouldn't do something about it. Making sure that you have a proper diet, high in protein, regular resistance training can really help reduce and possibly even reverse the effects of sarcopenia. Making sure that you have adequate protein can help you repair your muscles and repair your cells, because it's not just your muscles that are made of protein, your cells are made of protein as well. Your whole body signals with protein, almost all. I'm not going to say all because there's other types of receptors, but many types of communication that happen in your body are for protein. So you definitely need to make sure that you repair the protein that is lost every day with protein. So how is protein bad for you? Can I have too much of it? Actually, it's kind of hard to get too much protein. Now, there have been some people that say, hey, you can't have more than 25 grams of protein per meal, or hey, you can't have more than 30 grams of protein per meal because it puts some type of strain on your kidneys. Thus far, there isn't enough research to support that that is the case. It is a theory, however, and you should know your own body. If you feel like you have maybe some issue digesting protein, or if you particularly feel like maybe you pee a lot after you have too much protein or you have specific concerns, you should always check with a doctor first, but know your own body. As for the research, not enough research shows that there's anything wrong with having too much protein. In fact, the more protein is generally seen as better. especially when it comes to athletes trying to improve their strength gains. 2.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight is generally recognized as a good level for athletes. Not endurance athletes, but specifically athletes such as basketball players and those that require a good degree of explosive strength. All those ingredients come together in an amazing crock pot to make one gigantic bowl of chili. But if you want to make sure that you're not overeating or that you actually know what you're putting in the crock pot, you need to watch this video, because this is all about reading labels, and it can help you make your food better and also read the things that you're buying a lot better to understand what you're putting in your body. So check it out.